It was described as impossible by security analysts and dismissed as highly unlikely by government officials who believed they had the perimeter secured, but as we speak, the logistical heart of the French capital has been effectively brought to a complete standstill by a massive convoy of 350 heavy-duty tractors that have successfully navigated into the city center to surround the Arc de Triomphe in a demonstration of organization that has left the administration scrambling for a response and the European Union facing one of its most significant internal challenges in decades, because what we are witnessing on the streets of Paris tonight is not just a traffic disruption, but a historic moment of civic engagement where the agricultural sector is leveraging its physical assets to demand a seat at the negotiating table, and they are doing it with a level of precision that has stunned the entire political class. On Tuesday, January 13th, the situation escalated dramatically when convoys associated with the Coordination Rurale and the FNSEA moved into position on the Champs-Elysees, effectively turning the world's most famous avenue into a staging ground for a debate that has been simmering for 20 years regarding the future of food production and the economic viability of the family farm. And the sheer scale of this operation is difficult to comprehend until you see the drone footage showing lines of green and red machinery stretching back for kilometers, blocking every major access point to the chaotic Étoile roundabout. The media coverage has been frantic, but to understand the full scope of this event, you have to look past the headlines and understand the deep economic anxiety that is driving these actions, because this is a response to a series of complex trade negotiations, specifically the Mercosur deal, which farmers argue will introduce a level of competition that the current European regulatory framework makes impossible to sustain. And they are asking a very simple question, which is, why are we importing products from halfway around the world that we can grow right here at home? The central argument being made by the protesters is one of fairness, and they are using the highly visible location of the Arc de Triomphe to broadcast that message to the world, stating that they cannot compete with imports that do not face the same stringent environmental and labor costs that are mandated within the EU. And this disconnect between trade policy and domestic agricultural policy is what has parked 350 heavy machines in the center of Paris, creating a fortress of steel that no tow truck can move and no police cordon can easily penetrate. The atmosphere on the ground is tense but disciplined, with the farmers establishing a camp that is intended to last until they receive a concrete commitment from the government regarding the protection of their industry. And this standoff highlights the immense pressure that President Macron is under as he tries to balance international trade obligations with the desperate needs of his own rural constituents, who are warning that the current economic trajectory will lead to mass bankruptcies and the hollowing out of the countryside, which is a demographic disaster in the making. It is crucial to note that while the visuals are striking, this is a calculated political maneuver designed to force a conversation that has been delayed for too long, and the sheer scale of the equipment involved serves as a reminder of the industrial capacity that the farming sector controls. Because these are not simple tools, they are million-euro investments driven by highly skilled operators who understand logistics and supply chains better than most government ministers do. The authorities have opted for containment rather than confrontation, realizing that escalating the situation could lead to public safety issues and further unrest. So for now, the police are maintaining a perimeter, while the farmers maintain their blockade, creating a surreal scene where the symbols of state power are juxtaposed with the tools of agricultural labor, and the smell of diesel fumes mixes with the cold winter air of the capital. The implications of this event extend far beyond the peripherique, because observers in Germany and Italy and Spain are watching closely to see how the French government resolves this dispute. And if concessions are made, it could trigger a domino effect of similar demands across the continent, effectively rewriting the rules of the European Common Market and forcing Brussels to completely rethink its approach to agricultural subsidies and trade tariffs. The economic impact is already being felt, with delivery delays reported across the metro area, and business associations warning of significant losses if the Champs-Elysees remains closed. But the farmers argue that these short-term economic costs are negligible compared to the long-term cost of losing food sovereignty and becoming dependent on external supply chains for basic necessities, which is a vulnerability that became all too apparent during the supply chain crises of the last few years. This is a debate about national security as much as it is about economics, because the argument is that a nation that cannot feed itself is vulnerable to geopolitical shocks and price volatility. And by parking their tractors at the Arc de Triomphe, the farmers are physically placing that issue at the center of the national consciousness, forcing every citizen who walks by or sees it on the news to ask where their next meal is actually coming from. The coordination required to execute this movement without major accidents or violence speaks to the seriousness of the participants who are not acting out of malice, but out of a profound sense of urgency regarding the survival of their profession and their communities, which have been decimated by years of low prices and rising input costs, leaving many with no choice but to fight for their future in the only way they know how. We are seeing a clash of two distinct worldviews: the technocratic view that prioritizes global efficiency and trade volume, versus the agrarian view that prioritizes local stability and production standards. And tonight, those two views are deadlocked on the cobblestones of Paris, with neither side showing any sign of backing down. The mainstream conversation often misses the human element, which is the intense stress and uncertainty facing these families, many of whom are operating at a loss and seeing no future for their children in the industry. So this protest is in many ways a plea for a lifeline and a demand for a strategy that includes them rather than replaces them with industrial-scale conglomerates that have no connection to the land or the local culture. The No Farmers, No Food slogan is not just a hashtag, it is the core thesis of their argument, and they are betting that the French public will side with them when faced with the reality of what it takes to put dinner on the table, especially when they realize that the food on the grocery store shelves doesn't appear by magic, but is the result of hard labor and risky investment. As the sun sets over the capital, the lights of the tractors are illuminating a political landscape that has shifted beneath our feet, because the assumption that the rural sector would quietly accept the transition to a service-based economy has been proven false, and the government must now find a way to integrate the needs of the producers with the demands of the consumers, or risk a prolonged period of instability that could affect everything from food prices to political stability. This is not a situation that can be solved with a press release or a minor subsidy. It requires a fundamental rethinking of how we value food and the people who grow it. And until that happens, the tractors are likely to remain exactly where they are, serving as a constant visible reminder of the unresolved tension at the heart of the European project. The police presence is heavy, but the engagement is largely standoffish, as both sides understand the gravity of the situation and the potential consequences of a misstep, which adds to the surreal tension hanging over the city like a fog. It is a moment of suspended animation, where the normal rules of the city have been suspended, and a new reality has been imposed by the sheer weight of the machinery and the resolve of the people driving it, who have turned the Arc de Triomphe into a symbol of agricultural resistance. The message to the viewers watching this unfold is to pay attention to the details of the trade deal and the specific regulations being protested, because these are the gears of the machine that have ground to a halt, and understanding them is the key to understanding why this is happening and why it matters to everyone who eats. It is easy to look at a traffic jam and feel annoyance, but it is more important to look at the cause and feel the weight of the history being made, because we are watching a renegotiation of the social contract in real time, where the rural periphery is asserting its power against the urban center in a way that hasn't been seen in decades. The Arc de Triomphe was built to honor those who fought for France, and today it stands as a witness to a different kind of fight, a fight for the economic survival of the French countryside. And regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum, it is impossible to deny the significance of this moment or the bravery of the people who have put everything on the line to make their voices heard. The system is being stress-tested in a way we have not seen in decades, and the outcome of this standoff will likely determine the future of European agriculture for the next generation. So keep your eyes on Paris, because the story is far from over, and the next 24 hours could change everything. The determination of the protesters is matched only by the complexity of the problem and finding a solution that satisfies the global markets. The European Commission and the farmer in the cab of his tractor may prove to be the ultimate test of the current administration, which is currently paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong move. As the night wears on, the blockade remains solid, a physical manifestation of a question that demands an answer. What is the value of a farmer in the 21st century? And until Paris answers that question, the engine of the city will remain idle, while the engines of the tractors continue to run, keeping the heaters on and the lights flashing in a silent vigil that speaks louder than any speech ever could. The sociological impact of this cannot be overstated, because for the first time in a long time, the urban population is being forced to confront the physical reality of the machinery that sustains their lifestyle, and the sheer size of the tractors is a shock to many who have never seen a modern combine harvester up close, let alone 300 of them parked on the Champs-Elysees. This confrontation breaks the illusion of the digital economy, where everything is clean and instant, and brings back the reality of the material economy, where things are heavy and dirty and require diesel and sweat to function. The farmers know that they have disrupted the lives of the Parisians, but they argue that their own lives have been disrupted for years by policies made in this very city by people who have no understanding of the agricultural calendar or the realities of livestock management. They point to the rising suicide rates and the closing of village schools and the disappearance of local services as evidence that the social contract has already been broken and that this protest is merely the result of that breach, not the cause of it. The banners draped across the front of the tractors tell stories of despair and defiance with slogans that target the specific bureaucrats responsible for the latest round of regulations and demand a return to common sense in agricultural policy. It is a cry for help disguised as a show of force, and the government knows it, which is why they are hesitant to use the heavy hand of the state to clear the square, because they know that every farmer they arrest creates 10 more martyrs for the cause. The logistics of feeding and supporting the protesters are being handled by a network of volunteers who are bringing in supplies from the surrounding countryside, proving that this is not an isolated group of radicals, but the tip of a spear that has the support of a wide swathe of the rural population. The solidarity being shown is remarkable, with farmers from different unions and different regions putting aside their historic rivalries to stand together against a common threat, which makes the movement much more dangerous to the establishment than previous, more fractured protests. The rumor mill is churning with reports of more convoys on the way from Normandy and Brittany and the Burgundy region, which could swell the numbers significantly and turn a blockade into a total encirclement of the capital. The police are monitoring the highways and setting up checkpoints, but as we saw yesterday, it is very difficult to stop a tractor that is determined to get through, especially when it is moving in a column of 50 other vehicles. This cat-and-mouse game is playing out across the entire Île-de-France region, turning the map of the area into a chessboard, where the pieces are 10-ton machines and riot vans. The international dimension is also critical, because the Brazilian and Argentine governments are watching this with growing concern, realizing that their trade deal is in jeopardy, and applying pressure on Brussels to get the situation under control, which puts the EU in an impossible position between its international partners and its own member states. The French government is trying to deflect the blame onto the EU, but the farmers are not buying it because they know that the French ministers signed off on the negotiations and have the power to veto the deal if they really wanted to. This lack of trust is the fundamental problem, and it is why the farmers are demanding legally binding guarantees rather than verbal promises, because they have been burned too many times before. As the temperature drops, the resolve seems to harden, and the scene at the Arc de Triomphe takes on a medieval quality, with the fires burning in barrels and the groups of men standing guard around their machines, waiting for the dawn and whatever it brings. It is a siege in the classical sense of the word, a battle of wills, where the side that blinks first loses everything. And right now the farmers don't look like they are blinking. They have brought enough food and fuel to last for days, and they have the moral support of a public that is increasingly skeptical of the government's competence. The disconnect between the political elite and the working class has never been more visible than it is tonight on the Champs-Elysees, where the suits are hiding in their offices and the boots are on the ground controlling the territory. It is a moment of truth for the Fifth Republic, and a test of whether the democratic institutions can handle this level of dissent without collapsing into authoritarianism or chaos. The world is watching Paris not for its fashion or its art, but for its ability to resolve the fundamental conflict of the modern age, which is the tension between the global economy and the local community. And right now the local community is winning because they have the tractors, and they have the Arc, and they have the attention of the world. The silence of the city is broken only by the hum of the engines and the occasional shout of a protester, reminding everyone that while the city sleeps, the countryside is awake, and it is angry, and it is not going away until justice is served. This is the reality of 2026, where the old rules no longer apply, and the power belongs to those who can hold the street and feed the people. The Arc de Triomphe has stood for 200 years, and it has seen emperors and kings and presidents come and go, but it has never seen a night like this, and it may never see one like it again. The legacy of this protest will be felt for years to come, regardless of how it ends, because it has fundamentally changed the relationship between the farmer and the state, and proven that even in the age of digital surveillance and drone warfare, there is still no force more powerful than a united group of people who are fighting for their survival. So as you watch the live streams and read the updates, remember that this is not entertainment. It is a warning and a promise that the people who feed us will not be silenced, and they will not be erased. They are here, they are mobilized, and they are waiting for an answer.